Guys, I can barely see myself on the screen. Check out how bright the day is. Oh, Chase is here. So anyways, I'm not usually the earliest bird, but today is an exception because I've got the brand new DJI Mavic 3 Pro and I'm gonna take it for its first flight. Let's go. Alright, so just quickly go through with you what's in the bag. This whole bag will actually come out straight from the box. It's great that the Mavic 3 Pro comes with this bag. Not everyone will like it because some may prefer more of a hard case rather than this soft bag. Magnetic latch, connection, clip, whatever you want to call it. I got my spare props, manuals, there's the drone, your big ass RC and spare beds. So this is the Fly More combo. Besides the bed that you get here, you get 2 additional beds, charger, cables and power charging hub. As a carry around, I think that this bag is more than enough space for you to handle everything, even with the additional beds. But of course, like I said, some may not prefer this because, like for example, I'm carrying a few drones at one time. I don't want multiple bags like this. I may prefer a special carry case for all my drones. The Mavic 3 Pro is essentially the same as the Mavic 3 Classic, but now sporting a trifocal lens camera. It highlights the same specs of having H.264 and H.265 video coding formats, 8GB of internal memory, all-around cameras for obstacle sensing, and the new DJI O3 Plus video transmission that gives you Full HD 1080p live feed at 60 frames per second, and this transmission is rated for up to 15 kilometers of clear feed. Compared to the Classic, the Mavic 3 Pro's max flight time has been reduced to 43 minutes, but that's mainly due to having additional cameras on board. The main camera is the same on both the Pro and the Classic, that being the Hasselblad camera with a 4/3 CMOS sensor. This camera has a wide focal length of 24mm equivalent with a variable aperture starting at f2.8 closing all the way to f11. It's able to shoot up to 20 megapixel stills and 5.1K video up to 50 frames per second. With the Hasselblad is where you have the full color profiles for normal shooting, D-lock for more dynamic range, a medium D-lock for easier color grading, and hybrid lock gamma setting for the widest mix of color spaces. The 3x camera has a smaller 1.13-inch sensor with a medium telephoto lens of 70mm equivalent. Its aperture is fixed at f2.8, shoots stills at 48 megapixels, and video recording goes up to 4K 60 frames per second. Only normal, medium D-lock and hybrid lock gamma color profiles are offered in this camera. And for the 7x zoom, you have the least capable camera here with a half-inch sensor. It makes up for this with a longer 166mm telephoto lens, shooting 12 megapixel stills at a fixed f3.4 aperture, and video recording also goes up to 4K 60 FPS. Only normal color profile is offered here. Alright, just taking a break, and I wanna talk to you about some things that I noticed while flying this drone. I apologize for all the noise that's going on. There's construction work, but never mind, I'm just gonna push through it. First impressions of what I feel about the drone. Obviously it's a Mavic, it's a DJI series, it flies awesome, but I'm not gonna be talking about the flights yet. It's more of my experience on the controls. The image in the RC is excellent. It's just superb. It's crystal clear, but of course there's part got to do with having such a high-end camera. So about the cameras, now you already know there is the main camera, the Hasselblad camera, and then there is also a 3x zoom and also a 7x zoom camera. So some things that I noticed while I was toying around with the cameras is that if you chose, be it the main 1x, switching over to 3x or 7x zoom, the switching takes a while. There's like at least about a 2-second delay for it. I don't know, maybe it just like needs to warm up the camera and be ready for you before it shows you that image in the screen. Okay, so there's that delay for something for you to take note. Now, if you were on either one of the cameras and then you were recording, tapping on other cameras, you cannot switch. It is stuck on that specific camera. What you can do is actually, let's say you're on the 1x, tap that 1x and it will give you a digital zoom of up to 3x. If you're on the 3x camera, tap the 3x, you will get up to 7x, and if you're on the 7x camera, tap that, you'll have 14 times up to 28 times zoom. But again, take note that this is a digital zoom. Ideally, I find like I like working with the 3x zoom, that's fine, but you go 7 times and zooming into 14, it's kind of already starts to get muddy, and 28 is just bad. Alright, so I don't know how you'd want to use the 28 times zoom. Probably use it as more of a sightseeing or a recce zoom. Like you think that something could be interesting far away, you'd want to check it out before actually flying there. Now that's how I use up to 28 times zoom. Oh, one more thing, something I noticed about when you're using the longer focal length, right, the 7 times zoom, it gets much harder to center your subject. So you can actually make use of the touch option. You can just touch the screen, hold it there, and then move your finger around and on the screen, and that will actually give finer adjustments of where the gimbal is facing versus actually trying to move the drone to yaw, to pitch and roll the drone in place. Alright, so just touch and move the camera of the drone. It will sort itself out. I think that's a very nice feature to have to help the drone pilot center the shot. So another thing that I noticed, that there is an issue with master shots. I mean, it did fine on the Mini 3, right? But on the Mavic 3 Pro, there's a height restriction, but it's the same. I don't know, maybe the Mavic 3 Pro is going way higher. Maybe the master shots is different. I don't know. I won't know because I can't really test it out here. I'm limited by the 60-meter altitude. So anyways, I'm not gonna dwell on that. I'm just gonna move on. I did some subject tracking. It tracked okay. I mean, I used the main camera, the 3x zoom and also the 7x zoom. Now that's where we're giving a very different kind of perspective, right? The tracking was kind of off at times, but for the main part it was quite okay. I'm not too sure whether it's because the subject, as it went around the subject looked different to the camera, but yeah, maybe it's just one of those cases that it was off, right? So having the different zooms, that's where I can have that wide angle shot to establish the location, to give a high so-called like sure perspective of where is the subject, and that's where I can use 3x or 7x zoom to really compress the background. So here's an example, right? I'm gonna use the same subject, I'm just gonna reframe it so that it takes up almost the exact same space within the frame, right? So using the main camera, you can see the subject is, I'm actually very close to the subject, but I can still see a lot of the background, a very wide field of view. And then I switch over to the 3x zoom, framing the subject in about the same space. That's where you can see that the background is way closer. Now that is compression of the distance, your perceived distance of how far is the background. And if I use the 7x zoom, I really have to go fly far away so that I can frame the subject properly, and you can see that the compression, now the background is way closer. So that's how you can creatively use the different zoom lenses of the Mavic 3 Pro. Okay, so that's just a bit about the camera. I'm still on auto. I don't want to be trying out the manual modes, kinda no point because I'm waiting for my filters to arrive. That will be in a future episode, right? So stay tuned. I've had enough of a break. The noise is killing me. I'm gonna send the drone back up in the sky and let's get some follow shots. Alright guys, that is an awesome drone. That's not my bicycle. Anyways, I got 3 beds down and I'm sweating bullets here. I'm gonna get back to the studio and give my thoughts. Right, let's go. Okay, this caught me by surprise. So even though I had set the camera exposure settings on auto, the color spaces ended up being different on each camera. Some footage was in normal setting while others were in either log or HLG color spaces. That means that by the time you see this episode, I would have spent many hours color correcting the footages to match. Yes, color correcting and color grading is great for those that want to go creative and maybe go for a specific look to your film, but when all you want is simple footages to get you going, this is one hell of a curveball. So anyways, that brings me to mention that if you do get this drone, each camera needs to be set individually, meaning if you're manually putting in settings, you will have to do so for each one. So if let's say for a specific run and gun boat chase scene where you are switching between focal lenses, the settings for one camera will not be preserved for other cameras. So the exposure, the frame rates, color spaces, resolution settings, etc. Now you get the point, so just bear that in mind, alright? I'm not sure if there is an apply to all kind of bypass. There shouldn't be, right? So just check through the settings of all cameras before you start your flight, right? So, by the way, my filters from Freewell have arrived and so I'll be reviewing them, toying with the manual settings, giving it a bit more practice with the color spaces in the next episode. So do subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it, right? So anyways, let me just summarize what I really like and don't like about this drone for its first flight. Now, firstly, what I really like about it is that this drone flies strong and it flies fast. Now, it had no problem dealing with the high winds and speeds compared to my Mini 3. Next is that everything fits in the bag for the feel, even its big ass filter set, right? I find that the bag is of very good quality as it kind of has this peak design feel to it, especially you check out the strap and the magnetic clasp, right? That's very similar. So I'm also loving that this drone has a very powerful camera. Now, it's not like a one camera with wide to tele zoom, but instead it has 3-in-1. I feel that DJI really hit the spot with this one. And finally, for any cameraman that has dealt with long focal length lenses, now you know that it's very difficult to keep steady without having some sort of in-lens stabilization. Now, I'm not talking about this 70mm, we're talking about 100, 200 and above, right? So I'm just very glad that the footage looks well stabilized using the 7x zoom, and it is just plain ingenious, right? To have that touch controls to finally control the framing of the shot instead of having to control the positioning of the drone with the sticks. Now, one of the things that I don't like about the Mavic 3 Pro is that it is a heavy one. Now, compared to the original Mavic Pro, right, that fella has put on some weight. Now, but of course, it makes for a very stable drone under windy conditions, and it's amazing that it can still stretch that flight time to more than half an hour on a single charge. Now, the next thing that bugs me is the 2-second lag when you are switching between cameras. Right now, planned shots are fine if you are sticking with a specific focal lens, but if you are going to switch on the fly, then this is where the lag will be quite disorienting, especially when you jump from the main camera to the 7x zoom. The subject may already be out of frame, you'll need to go and recenter your shot, right? So the last thing now that I want to mention is actually quite confusing to me. Now, there's this easy shots mode where you can just engage master shots, and then in a span of 2 minutes the drone would have done a sequence of cinematic and cool drone shots, where then afterwards, right, in post you can go and choose the best shot for your edit. Now it worked fine for me on my Mini 3 Pro, but for some reason it can't be engaged on this drone. If anyone knows why, please let me know in the comments. I mean, I tried everything. I even flew lower and closer to the water surface just so I could give it more headroom. Now, is it really because it does not have enough height clearance? Not too sure, right? So you guys help me out on this. Okay, verdict. Anyways, I can't say there is much to hate about this drone. It is their flagship drone that has come a long way since the Mavic Pro itself and even the Mavic Pro 2. Now truthfully, there is still more to test out, especially DJI's subject tracking, not only in static but also in motion. Now also I want to know how well its obstacle avoidance performs and also the setting up of waypoints. Now there are actually 7 versions out there, including the Enterprise versions. The Pro Cine version is totally out of reach. It's just based on the price alone, right? So the Pro version being the most versatile amongst the rest. Now if you're looking to get the flagship of DJI's drones, now the Mavic 3 Pro looks to be the best of the bunch. Now I look at this from the point of having 3 cameras under your control and priced mid-tier amongst the other versions. So who is this drone for? Now, if you're the casual consumer looking for a travel drone, then I tell you definitely no. It is heavy. You will not like having to lug around the whole kit. Now, the big transmitter and the spare batch, all that is gonna add on weight. You're better off getting the Mini 3 Pro. Now, for it being lightweight and compact, it is really enjoyable to bring it on trips to capture the landscapes and the skies. But the thing here is, I do have the Mini 3 Pro. That's just the box, right? It's in the rack somewhere. So anyways, I do have the Mini 3 Pro and it comes with a fair bit of limitations. Now, when it comes to stability during high winds and using it for high speed follow shots, now it just can't cut it, right? So I'd say that the Mavic 3 Pro is a drone more for the prosumer category. Now if you find that you want to have the best compact drone for your trips, powerful and versatile camera mix on board, and pro settings to go above and beyond and even do professional projects, then the Mavic 3 Pro will be the drone of choice. My drone of choice anyways. So, but you'll have to work hard for it though, because it ain't cheap. So, any better of a drone and we be looking at the Inspire series, but that drone means business and best reserved for cinema grade work, alright? So those are my thoughts on this drone on its first flight. Now, looking forward to fly with it again soon. Really an enjoyable piece of tech, right? So anyways guys, I'm gonna wrap it up right here. Now, if you've liked this episode, do give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, chat with me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Pilots, as always, I'll see you in the skies. Peace!